Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys join me, our international friends, as we get together to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And I'm, of course, joined today by the great Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
Well, I'm sitting here green with envy, John. Envy at you. All my envy is directed at you.
Well, it's not just green with envy. It's probably a little bit green with joy because of the thing we're going to talk about right off the top here, guys. Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah, my envy just disappeared.
What's that?
My envy just disappeared.
Yeah, now you're just enveloped with joy.
Joy.
Game of Thrones has just dropped their first, I guess you can really call this the first true full trailer for the upcoming final season. This, of course, being what we call in the business the money shot. Right here. Lots of dragons. Lots and lots of dragon action in this new spot that we got here. Now, Robert, I don't personally, physically know anybody on this planet who's looking forward to Game of Thrones, the final season, as much as you are. So why don't you give us your thoughts on the show? You just watched this. Like, I just watched this.
I just watched. You know, I have long speculated that one of the things that would happen at the end of this series, and of course, what's great is it's all speculation because George R.R. Martin has not written the final books in this series yet. So the producers, in a strange, I think the first time in history, have been soldiering on without knowing how it. Well, George R.R. Martin told you how it was going to end, told them, but it's so strange that they're off book. They're literally off book. But I always thought that we were going to see double Targaryen action. We were going to see two Targaryens riding dragons, kicking ass, and of course, Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen are going to do just that. And I am so excited after looking at that image you just picked. Man, I'm excited. I don't think I've been as excited for anything on television, maybe ever. Maybe ever.
Maybe ever.
And maybe ever. I think I might be more excited for this conclusion, these 6 episodes, than anything that's been on TV ever. And I can't wait. I'm going to start a full rewatch of the entire series in March 14th, because it debuts April 14th. So I'm gonna give myself a month to get through all the previous seasons.
So how many? So there are 7 previous seasons, correct? Like, this is season 8.
Right. So there's 10 episodes a season up through season 7.
Right. So we got 78 episodes you got to get through.
Yeah.
In a month.
In a month. And I'm gonna do it, man. I'm gonna do it.
You know what? I believe in you, Robert. Chase your dream. Chase your dream.
I went through Breaking Bad in like 3 weeks for the first time, so I can do it.
Now, here's a couple of things that stood out to me. The first thing, besides the dragons, I mean, yeah, they showed a lot of dragons in this trailer, but one of the things that stood out to me was the distinct lack of arguably the most popular character in Game of Thrones, and that's Tyrion. We had like one shot, one very quick, brief shot. Now, we got like 3 or 4 shots of Cersei. We got a whole bunch of Jon Snow. We got a whole bunch of one quick. You know what? I think Jorah had more screen time. The guy forever condemned to the friend zone. I think Jorah got more screen time in this thing than Tyrion. And I just find that odd because he is arguably the most popular character in the show. Do you think now, does this mean nothing at all? Does this mean absolutely nothing? Or do you think this might be a little bit of a thing to the audience of, hey, this ain't going to be a Tyrion heavy season. You're not going to get a lot of Tyrion. Or do you think it means nothing?
Well, I don't think it means anything. I think we didn't see a lot of people. I mean, I thought that the choice, the trailer, I'd call this more of a teaser trailer because it was really, it's teeing everybody up. But I like how Arya, they spent a lot of time when she says, I've seen the many faces of death, and I look forward to seeing this one. I mean, the fact that they started with Arya, and look, one of my favorite shots in this teaser trailer was Cersei just with the cup in her hand about to take a drink, the camera pushing in on her face. I'm like, that's it, man. I mean, you know, they don't have to show us the boom, as we call it. This was not a boom trailer. This was teeing up the boom.
I don't know, man. I thought there was a lot of boom in this trailer.
But you don't even see the Night's King. I love the fact that you just hear the sound and you see the footstep, or you see the one leg of a horse. And after this comes on the trail of the Entertainment Weekly article about filming the Battle of Winterfell, which they say is the biggest. They say it's as big as Helm's Deep from the Two Towers, if not bigger. And man, I'm excited. But you know what? I'm also sad because I'm going to have serious Thrones withdrawal. It's already been 2 years, and once the show goes away, it's gone.
Well, I mean, you got the spin-off shows coming and who knows? Hold out hope, Robert. Hold out hope.
No, it can be good. It's just when you deal, it's like with Lord of the Rings. When you deal with the end of the world, like this is an apocalyptic battle. It doesn't matter what happens in the next shows. It's still never going to be an apocalyptic battle, for the soul of Middle-earth or the soul of Winterfell. So it might be a very good, I mean, Better Call Saul is shaped up to be a good prequel series. I think, I haven't really delved into it yet, but I hope this is great. It looks great.
Yeah. So tell us, guys, what do you guys think of the new Game of Thrones trailer? Has it amped up your excitement for it, or were you already so excited for it? Didn't matter what trailer put out. Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, with that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our main topics of the day. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? It's really rather simple. You guys select them by sending me your topics and questions, not by email. There's a new method, guys, that's really going to help me keep everything organized a lot better. There's a new method for you submitting your topics and questions to the John Campea Show, and it's simply this. Go to the website, www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. That's www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. And there you'll see a form that you simply fill out and submit, and that will send in your topic and question for consideration to be here on the John Campea Show. So with that down and out of the way, let's go to our first email today. And by the way, you notice that Ashley's not here because Ashley is an actress and she is off doing auditions and acting things this morning. And a kind of a cool thing, actually. I don't know if she'll want to talk about it or not, but I'll leave that up to her. So let's get to the first email today. The first email today comes to us from one of our Patreon supporters, David Lillian, who writes, longtime fan of the show. Thank you so much, David, and thank you so much for being a Patreon supporter, by the way. I just watched the new Shazam trailer today, and the movie looks absolutely hilarious. On top of that, I was talking to some friends today who don't even know who Shazam is and aren't really into superhero movies that much, but they said they really want to see this movie. Do you think that Shazam's light comedic tone will attract a wider audience? All right, thanks a lot for the question there, David. And Rob, I'm going to have you turn your headphones down just a little bit there.
Oh, sorry, man.
You had a chance. I'm going to assume you had a chance. Now, the new Shazam trailer actually dropped yesterday as we were doing the John Campea Show, so we didn't have a chance to talk about it yesterday. So before we get into the wider appeal of it, what did you think about the new trailer?
I loved it. I mean, I thought it was hilarious. I like the fact that it kind of, again, these superhero trailers kind of all take from the same scenes over and over again, so they don't spoil a lot of what goes on.
Right.
So there was a lot of setup that we'd seen before, but the very end of the trailer, when he tries to leap a tall building in a single bound and goes right into someone's office. I mean, they've really nailed it. And again, they're really hitting hard the idea of this wish fulfillment fantasy of becoming a superhero, and they've nailed it. And I think with that alone, they're going to draw in people that aren't necessarily into comic book movies, because the idea of becoming a superhero is irresistible. I think we've all, no matter who you are growing up, you've all dreamed, or everybody's dreamed of having some kind of superpower, no matter what that power might be. And this movie seems like it's nailed it, and I can't wait.
Yeah, I got to agree. I watched the trailer. I didn't know, I already felt that the previous trailer and spots really captured exactly what they should be going for in a Shazam film. They captured that wonderment of the whole notion of a kid who comes into possession of superpowers and the overall sense of wonderment that causes for the character. Now, I'm sure at some point in the movie as well, he's going to not just be in wonder of these new powers. I'm sure at some point in the movie, he's going to truly embrace the responsibility of what that means as well. And you know what? When I watch these trailers, Robert, it also goes back to that sense that we talked about before in that kind of behind the scenes featurette of it, where Zachary Levi was talking about the fact that when you really look over the pantheon of the superhero movies, Shazam is the one hero who just loves being a superhero.
Right.
Like every other superhero, it's, I have to accept the burden of the responsibility. And he's like, dude, this is awesome. He just loves being a superhero. A little bit like Spider-Man in a sense there. And that has really come across. And I think this trailer elevated that even more. You really got the sense. And like you said, there's a lot of recycled stuff in this trailer for sure. But that one shot at the end, I'm going to jump over this building, crash, bang. And sorry. And you know what else they did that was really cool in this trailer? Because not just destroying the side of a building, but like we saw him catching a bus in a previous trailer. We didn't realize he's the one who causes the bus crash in the previous trailer. So it's like, yeah, guess what? If you had a 14-year-old kid who all of a sudden had the power of the gods, a lot of China's going to get broken. Like a lot of plates are going to break. And I love the fact that they're kind of embracing all that at the same time. Like, this is what would happen if a kid got powers.
Well, I also love the scene. It's such a quick, we've seen the scene, but they added a little tag to it when Billy Batson's first confronting Shazam. And Jaimin Hansu's like, now I bequeath you with my power. And Billy Batson just is like, he starts laughing. He's like, yeah, whatever, dude. And that's what a kid would say because it's so absurd. I mean, they're playing into it like in this world, superhero dumb is not something that happens every day. And a kid's like, get out of town, you know, come on. And they've really struck the right tone because it seems to me like superheroes do exist in this world. And so Billy Batson's like, yeah, I'm not a superhero, dude. But I like that. I mean, I hate in movies, you know, you watch horror movies sometimes and the people in horror movies act like in their universe, they've never watched a horror movie. And you know, they just like, don't go in that house, dude. Don't go in the basement. Why are you doing that? Have you not watched a movie? And in this movie, it seems like there are superheroes in the world. Billy Batson is aware of them and he's acting accordingly. Because all of us, the audience, know what we would do if we were confronting Shazam, and we would laugh in his face too.
You know what? That brings us to an interesting point, though, that was brought up in the email itself, was that it seems to me, because when you go back to like movies like Man of Steel, which all hail Man of Steel, if you go back to movies like Batman versus Superman and whatever, Warner Brothers, understandably so, and I certainly never thought anything ill of it, but Warner Brothers was clearly targeting people who know these characters.
Right.
Like, you know Batman, you love Batman, look at Batman and Batman versus Superman. And they put out some amazing trailers. Like some of the Batman versus Superman trailers are some of the best. I mean, they're great. Also Justice League, look guys, it's the Aquaman you know. It's Flash, you know Flash. And they did that, and it was a perfectly good strategy. They seem to me, though, especially when it's reflected in the message here, it seems to me they are altering strategies when it comes to marketing Shazam. It's not about, you remember the live action show you used to watch as a little kid in the late 70s? You remember the comic strip favorite hero that used to rival the popularity of Superman at one point? No, it was this. They seem to be targeting their marketing for Shazam at everybody. Like this isn't a comic book movie that's targeting comic book movie fans. They are targeting movie fans, period. They're showing you that lightheartedness. They're showing you the humor. They're showing you the endearing of this kid with these powers. And it just seems like this is a superhero movie that's being, not to the exclusion of superhero movie fans.
Right.
But isn't targeting superhero movie fans. It's targeting everybody. And that seems, to me at least, to show a little bit of a change in philosophy as to how they are approaching their movies and how they're marketing their movies. Now, Robin, are you seeing the same thing, or am I reading too much into this at this point?
No, I think you're exactly right. I mean, what's funny too is the jokes are, again, in this, they're situational. And they're not jokes at the expense of the characters, even though Billy Batson isn't in control of his powers as he is as Shazam. You know, they're making it, everybody understands the situation they've set up in this movie, and everyone gets it immediately. And it's still, while it's very comedic and humorous, it's still respectful of the genre. So it's attracting non-superhero fans will like it because it's funny, but superhero fans will like it because everybody wishes they were in the position that Billy Batson is in. So I think it truly is a movie, and the way they're marketing it, that appeals to everyone. I mean, I love the scene, you know, they keep showing the scene where Shazam goes to buy beer. I would like your finest beers. And the obvious thing would be to cut to both of them drunk. But I love the fact they both take a sip of the beer and they're like, this is horrible.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what my face looks like when I drink beer, by the way.
I mean, when you're a kid, you know, it's like the first time you take a drink, you're like, what is this swill? Why do adults like this? And you feel like you're getting into this adult world, but then, oh, it's disappointing. Maybe I don't want to be in this adult world. And I love that about this trailer. I think they're doing a phenomenal job.
All right, guys. Well, listen, what did you guys think about the new Shazam trailer that dropped yesterday? And do you think that this kind of signals that Warner Brothers has kind of altered their philosophies a little bit with their comic book movies? And do you think it'll be effective? Jump down the comment section and let us know your thoughts. All right, with that down, let's move to the second topic today. And the second topic today comes to us from Francis Montgomery, who writes, "Greetings, John. What the hell is going on with Sherlock Holmes? We've been waiting forever for a third installment that they kept telling us was coming. Then it finally gets a release date for 2020. And today they kick us in the tenders by telling us they're pushing it off another year to 2021. It's going to open 10 years after part 2. Why is it so hard for them to get Sherlock Holmes going? Robert, yesterday, they did announce that Sherlock Holmes 3 is now pushed to the Christmas season of 2021. It's going to be opening, I believe, 1 week after Avatar 3. I think it's Avatar 3 that's going to be opening after now, at any rate. Why has it been so hard? Number one, should they even be doing this movie? Number two, if they are doing it, why is it taking them so long to get this done? And why is it so hard for them to do it?
Well, I think Guy Ritchie and both Guy Ritchie and Robert Downey Jr. have been working. You know, I mean, Guy Ritchie directed Aladdin. You know, I'm sure he's still trying to feverishly finish it for its release date. And or maybe the Warner Brothers knows something about Aladdin that we don't know. I mean, Guy Ritchie's last film was what, that version of
the King Arthur.
Yeah, the King Arthur story.
Which I'm one of the only people on the planet that liked that movie, but everybody else hated. And it could be one of the biggest flops of all time in the sense that it lost them hundreds of millions of dollars. So that was. And by the way, Guy Ritchie right now is not signed on to direct the third one. As of right now, there is no director even signed on to direct the third one.
Yeah, I think that could be part of it. And another problem with Sherlock Holmes, actually, I like the two Sherlock Holmes movies.
Me too.
But Joel Silver, who produced those films, had a very acrimonious split with Warner Brothers. He had a deal with Warner Brothers. He was on the Warner lot for the better part of a quarter century. And he's no longer there. So the movie is... it's a Warner Brothers property. I don't know what Joel Silver's deal is in terms of his actual, not like what's his deal, dude, but I mean what his deal is with the studio, and that could be some of the holdup of what's going on with that movie.
Yeah, and I'm like you. I actually quite enjoyed. Well, first of all, I really liked the first one.
Yeah,
the second one was a step down, but still enjoyable. Like they brought in Moriarty and all that kind of stuff, played by Harris's son. What's his name? I think it's Richard Harris's son. I'm forgetting his.
Oh yeah, me
he's
too.
Great. Why am I forgetting his name? Anyway, he made him play Moriarty.
Jared Harris.
That's it. Jared Harris.
Jared Harris from Mad Men. He was on Mad Men.
And from a lot of other things.
A million other things.
Fringe, he was in that too. Anyway. He was great in the role. I love Rachel McAdams. I love Jude Law. I loved Robert Downey Jr. in the role, as a matter of fact. But I got a feeling, and I can't back this up, I got a feeling the delay comes from the fact that, hey, we've got a movie scheduled to come out next Christmas, and we still don't have a director.
Right.
We still don't have a director. And I'm assuming at this point, they've had plenty of time to re-sign Guy Ritchie to do this. And I really like the job Guy Ritchie did with those. And of course, I will always be a Guy Ritchie fan because he did one of my all-time favorite films, Well, we did a couple of them, but Snatch, one of my all-time favorites. Lock, Stock. I mean, I'm just a big Guy Ritchie fan. And I would have loved to have seen him come back for that, but clearly it looks like they're not going to go that way. So this could all just be simply about the fact that they just haven't got a director yet, and they needed to buy themselves more time. And probably, it's a scheduling thing. Robert Downey Jr. is, okay, look, looking at his watch, tell me right now, are we going for this 2020 release date? If you can't tell me 100% yes, I got to go start doing these other movies. Mm-hmm. And they're like, okay, we're going to push it off to 2021. And that's probably what it is. But I'm looking forward to seeing it. I want to see it.
Me too.
I'm excited about it. And it is well overdue. It is well overdue. So, and normally I would say it's too late, like 10 years, but this is Sherlock Holmes. This is a character that has endured multiple generations, so you can go back to him at any time. So I think they'll be fine. All right. Let's now move on to email number 3. And the third message today comes to us from Doug Marks, who writes, "Good morning, gentlemen. John, thank you for sharing your pictures from the Captain Marvel screening last night. Looks like it was a good time. That's nice and all, but how was the movie? I've been waiting to hear what you thought of it, so what's the verdict on it?" All right, so Robert, in case you didn't know, I had a chance to go to see Captain Marvel last night.
I'm aware.
I'm going to actually show you a couple of pictures here just that he was talking about. It was a really good festive environment. If you guys look closely, there was a lot of the armed service members there. A lot of military there last night there to enjoy the film, and they seemed to have a great time, which is always great. We had Brie Larson honored them pre-movie, like just before the movie started. Brie Larson came out and really paid tribute to the armed forces members and those who were there, and it was a great time. I, of course, went with Anne, and we had a wonderful time at the festivities. It's all nice. These things are always kind of fun to go to. Anyway, went in to see the movie. Now, Rob, I actually already put up my review. I put up my review at 6 a.m. this morning, which is when the review embargo lifted. Oh, and you saw it. So, just Cole's notes here. Captain Marvel is a good movie. It's a good movie. It's entertaining. It's crowd pleasing. In general, people are going to like it. Now, this morning, I've been monitoring the critic rating, and it's been fluctuating. Like, it opened at like 83%, then it like went to 92%, then it went to like 87%, then it went to 91%. I think right now, I just reloaded the page. Right as of this moment, it's sitting at 89%. And I'm finding that there are some critics who just absolutely went bananas for it and absolutely loved it. I find most of the critics are like me, which is, and this is a symptom of us being completely spoiled with the riches that is the MCU and how great the films have been. But I will say, I think a lot of people felt the same way I did. This is a good movie with some great moments, but also not a top-tier MCU film. Like, this isn't as good, in my opinion. This is not on the same level as Avengers. It's not on the same level as Winter Soldier. It's not on the same level as Civil War. It's not on the same level as an Infinity War. I would put it on the same level as, say, Doctor Strange, which I liked very much, but just, not top tier. This is not top tier. And one of the criticisms I've heard from people, Rob, even when the social media embargo lifted, was, hey, first act is kind of slow. Yeah, it is. The first, now, later on in the film, all the groundwork they're laying narratively in the first half of the film and in the first act gets paid off later in the film, and I recognize that. But it doesn't change the fact that, the first 45 minutes or so, you're like, okay, there's some interesting things happening, but I'm not experiencing what I've come to expect in an MCU movie-going experience. You know what I mean? And there was a bit of that. Some of the action scenes were fantastic. Some of them, not so much. Some of the CGI is mind-blowingly good. There's some CGI in the movie that's a little bit questionable all at the same time. So I walked out, first of all, it was very crowd-pleasing. The audience had a great time. And I walked out having had a good time. This is a good, solid movie. Again, I put it on, I say, it's better than like Ant-Man 2. I think it's better than Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It's certainly better than a Thor 2. It's certainly better than, there's a number of movies that it's better than in the MCU. And I put it on par with like You know how much I appreciate the first Ant-Man, how much I appreciated Doctor Strange. I'd put it on that level. It's an important movie, though, in the sense that what I was really taken with, and I never saw anybody else talk about this, which surprises me. This is a movie that connects a lot of the dots in the MCU that the MCU has kind of been dropping along the way for the past 20 plus films. And there's a number of significant dots in the MCU that Captain Marvel comes along and connects them. And I thought that was done very good. Brie Larson's great in it. Ben Mendelsohn is insanely good in this. Like a part of me just kind of expected director Krennic again, right? And I liked him in Rogue One, but he's fantastic in this. Samuel Jackson's great. The cat is wonderful. Goose the cat is wonderful. There's a number of really positive things. Ronan, they should never have even mentioned that he was in the movie, and they never even should have showed him in a trailer because he has such an insignificant role in this movie that he didn't even need to be there. It was total fan service just popping him in there. He didn't have to be there at all, so that's a little bit of a drawback. But overall, it is a good, solid, what we have come to expect from an MCU movie. Just in my opinion, not a top shelf, not among the elite of the MCU films at this time. And by the way, we all know every MCU movie has post-credit scenes. You don't have to stick around for all of them. You gotta stick around for this one. I'm not going to give anything away except to say I don't think there has ever been a more relevant and important post-credit scene. And there are two, particularly the first post-credit scene. There's never been a more relevant or important post-credit scene, I think, than the one they did in Captain Marvel. So if you're thinking, sometimes post-credit scenes aren't all that great, I can just leave right now. You don't want to leave. Keep your ass in the seat. Make sure you watch it. And there you go. So, Rob, you've had a chance to listen to me talk about it because you saw my review. You've read a bunch of the reviews out there already today. Where are your expectations now? As somebody who hasn't seen it yet, you're seeing it later this week. But where are your expectations now that you're seeing? Is everything coming out the way you kind of thought it would? Is it a little better than you thought it would be? A little lower? What do you think right now?
No, I think it's exactly what I expected it to be from reading all of these things. It's to me, here's the thing. The bar, everybody expects every one of these movies to come out and change their life. You know, when you've seen Infinity War and you've seen Civil War, I still find it very enjoyable to go back and watch a movie like Ant-Man and the Wasp, because those are the movies that bring you sort of down to earth. And even though Captain Marvel is a cosmic character, when I hear that the first half of the movie is spending time on her character development, and having read a little bit about the film now, and knowing that Carol Danvers isn't Carol Danvers at the beginning of the movie, she doesn't know who she is, and that the film has a lot to do with her quest for her own identity. Well, that makes sense. I mean, they hired two directors from the indie film world to do this. Brie Larson, of course, comes out of indie film. And I'm curious to see how that sensibility works within the MCU. So I like the scenes in Doctor Strange before Stephen Strange had his car crash, you know, watching him be a doctor. And I like character development scenes, and I like what I've read about all of this. And I think, like you said, if it's connecting the dots of the MCU and it has the last half of the movie is action-packed and really delivers the goods, I don't mind getting to know a character, especially because that's what makes the MCU film so strong, is you really know who these people are. When Doctor Strange shows up in Infinity War, it was his character that sort of cemented the whole movie. And then his conflict with Stark, if we had not met Doctor Strange in his movie, he wouldn't have had the gravitas that he had in Infinity War. So these movies are all of a tapestry, and that's kind of how I look at them. I do not expect Captain Marvel to change my life or turn back my aging clock or something like that. I mean, I expect it. Everyone says, hey, it's like you say, it's a good movie. It's a solid movie. I mean, I've seen other online pundit reactions, specifically female reactions, and they're over the moon about this movie. And I think that it does not change my feeling that, like Venom and like Aquaman, these movies have overperformed when it came to expectations. I think this movie is not, I have put this up on a pedestal in terms of how it's going to perform box office wise. I'm sticking to that.
One of the interesting things, too, it should be pointed out, is that despite what a lot of people think, there was never any moment in this film at all. And I was looking for it. I was expecting one or two subtle ones, but there was never any moments of woman power in it. There's none of that. There's never a reference to, I'm going to beat you because I'm a girl and there's girl power. Like, there was none of that. Like, not an ounce of it in the movie. And I was expecting at least a little bit of it, and it would have been fine if there was, because this, out of 20 plus Marvel films, this is the first one out of 20 plus movies that they've done with a female lead. So you think they would have done a little bit of that. But I found it pretty refreshing that we came out of it. And by the end of the movie, like Anne actually mentioned to me, she was the one who mentioned it to me. She goes, I was expecting at some point there'd be a little bit of a speech about how the fact that I need to prove it to myself that I can do it even though I'm a girl, or something along those lines. And there was none of that in the movie, which I thought was actually kind of interesting. So anyway, there you go, guys. I expect, now as traditionally happens, I expect the critic rating to probably settle around the mid to low 80s. That's where I'm expecting it to settle, which would be great, but I don't expect it to finish at 90, 91. I expect it, my guess is going to be around 82 to 85 is where I think these things are going to settle. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see. All right. With that down, let's move on now to the next email today. And the next email today, where did it go? Here it is. Comes to us from Vince Tuin, who writes, "Hey guys, I was wondering if you saw the news that Oscar Isaac may be playing Solid Snake in a Metal Gear Solid movie. I think he'll be an amazing Snake. So, does this mean they're finally almost ready to start shooting this movie? I feel like we've been waiting for it most of my life." All right, thanks a lot for the email, Vince. Now, so for those of you who don't know, what Vince is referring to is that there are some stories and headlines going around right now that Oscar Isaac could be playing Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid. However, I hate to bust your bubble, Vince, and everybody else, but there is no legitimate story that legitimately proposes any chance that Oscar Isaac is actually going to play the role. He has as good of a chance playing the role as anybody else on the planet, but despite headlines, there is no real story here that Oscar Isaac may be playing. Here's where all this comes from. So Oscar Isaac was kind of being interviewed about something. And in the midst of it, they bring up video game movies, and he goes, "Oh, I'd throw my hat in the ring for Metal Gear Solid," right? Just like every actor does. What? An actor who wants a job? Really? Anyway, so what happened then is that Jordan Vogt-Roberts, who is directing, at least is currently signed on to direct a Metal Gear Solid movie, he got on social media and he said this. And his very first thing that he wrote is, "This musing is not news." It's the very first thing he writes. This musing is not news. All right. And then he goes and writes, "Everybody asking how I feel about Oscar Isaac saying he would like to be Solid Snake. The full process required to cast an icon hasn't even started. But ask Boss Logic, because the fan treasured Boss Logic, of course, did what he does and made this great fan art, which you can see a little piece of down there in the corner. He said, ask Boss Logic where the idea for his brilliant mock-up came from. The ball's in Oscar's court." So that's what he says. This musing is not news. We haven't even started the process of casting. Anyway, there's that. So what does the news do when he says this is not news? Well, they run news headlines that say Oscar Isaac could play Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid. And this one is coming from a really good website. I love Coming Soon. ComingSoon.net is one of my go-to movie news sites. They're usually very, very reliable. But even they got caught up in this. So we go from this is not news, we haven't even started casting, this is not news, to a news headline, Oscar Isaac could play Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid. Anyway, so he's got as good of a chance as any. But I believe at some point, Rob, if I'm not mistaken, I think at some point, like Tom Hardy was attached to Metal Gear. I think, if I'm remembering it correctly.
I seem to recall that as well.
Yeah, so I don't know when that came and went. And I don't know, this is a game that a lot of people for a long time have thought could make a pretty good movie. And they just seem to sputter and sputter and sputter. And then Warcraft comes out, doesn't do well. Then you had Assassin's Creed come out, the two films we thought were going to usher in a golden age of video game movies. Remember that? We thought, like so many of us thought, Warcraft and Assassin's Creed are coming, and these are the movies that are going to break the curse and open the doors for the golden, glorious, heavenly age of great video game movie adaptations, and that didn't happen, which I think just kind of pushed these off. Then Tomb Raider came out, which was actually pretty good, and it didn't do well financially, which I think made the studios even more apprehensive about putting something out. Rob, let me ask you this. Should they do a Metal Gear Solid movie? Is it too late to do it? Is the environment even right for big, high-profile video game movies right now? Or do you think because of the failures of some, it makes it an even better opportunity now? What do you think?
Well, Metal Gear Solid is a really interesting franchise. I mean, it's really if a video game could be auteurist, that is Hojima, the Japanese designer and impresario behind this entire franchise, is quite a visionary. And I think if they made any Metal Gear Solid movie, he would have to be involved. And I just think that there's a lot more going on with this project, and it's, again, it's got a secret agent element to it, sort of a super soldier element to it, bleeding edge technology. It's got all kinds of things that could turn this into a really interesting franchise. Whereas like the Assassin's Creed franchise, we have the future scenes, and then we have the scenes in the past, and it's like whenever they try and adapt a video game, they have to like move away from the video game itself and add all these other things that people who like the games are like, why'd you have to go in that direction? Why'd you emphasize that? But I think Metal Gear Solid, it has so many things in it that could be great, that are inherently cinematic, because the games themselves have been so cinematic that I think it could be a great franchise. But with the way video game movies have been performing, I can't see anyone taking the gamble on it right now. I just can't see. I mean, if you had $200 million, would that be the first movie you were going to make?
Yeah, now with the track record. And it's too bad, too, because it's not just Metal Gear Solid. You got a couple of other prime IPs. Just wait. Last of Us is one that people have been screaming for. And then over the years, we've had little bits of news that maybe something's happening, then nothing does. God of War is a recent one that could make a great big screen adaptation. But again, you're right. If you're a studio and you got $200 million to spend, and you look at the track record of video game movies and how they've performed, even when you've had a pretty good one like Tomb Raider, it would probably give you a little bit of pause. All right. Let's move on now to the final topic today. And the final topic today comes to us from our friend Derek Tran, who writes, I feel like we're all starting to forget about Guardians of the Galaxy 3 ever since James Gunn joined up with Warner Brothers to make Suicide Squad. But I just saw an article where James's brother Sean was saying that the movie is still happening. So I guess I have two questions. One, do you guys think that Guardians 3 is actually happening? And two, if so, when are we going to start hearing something about it? All right. For those of you who don't know what Derek is talking about, last night, Sean Gunn was also at the premiere of Captain Marvel. He was actually sitting across the aisle from us. And we were here, and he was in the next aisle over. And he was full decked out. It was a really cool outfit. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, Sean Gunn plays Kraglin in Guardians of the Galaxy, and while Bradley Cooper does the voice of Rocket Raccoon, the actual guy on set doing the motion capture for Rocket and referencing is Sean Gunn. He does it. Anyway, and he is James Gunn's brother. So he was being interviewed on the red carpet last night about Guardians 3, and this is what Variety, who spoke with him, basically wrote about that. They said, Sean Gunn, brother to Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn, confirmed at Monday's Captain Marvel premiere that the third movie is a go. I don't know exactly how that's all going to work, but we are going to make the third movie. I'm excited to make it. I think it's a disservice to the fans if we didn't make it, and I know the people who worked on the Guardians movies are really a family, and we're going to come together and make the best movie we can, regardless of who's in charge. Rob, you hear these comments coming from a guy like Sean Gunn. Number one, let's go back to the original questions. Is this movie even ever going to happen? When is this thing going to happen? And do you think Sean Gunn saying this might be an indicator that behind the scenes, James Gunn is like, hey, everybody, it's cool. Like, it's all good. Let's just all play above board and be good. I mean, what happened, happened. Or how do you see this whole thing?
Well, first of all, I think, of course, we're going to get a Guardians of the Galaxy 3 because, one, everyone loves the Guardians of the Galaxy. They also played a big role in Infinity War, and I would expect we'll see them again in Endgame. Those movies collectively, once again, made $1.5 billion, and who knows how much they made in ancillary money. I mean, there's a ride at Disneyland with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Very good ride, actually.
They replaced the Hollywood Drop of Terror or Tower of Terror, whatever it was.
Yeah, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. I think that, you know, Sean Gunn obviously is an integral part of not just because he's James Gunn's brother, but because he's a character in the film. You know, he's one of the people that he's a great secondary character, and because he does perform Rocket, he's part of that family. And I think he would know they're going to use the James Gunn script. I'm sure James Gunn still gets a producing credit, and I'm sure they want the movie to get made. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out that it's one of the first movies out of the gate in Marvel Phase 4, at least one of the first 3, because they already have the script. They've probably already been deep into pre-production on it. They just haven't decided quite how they're going to handle it yet. That's why I think Kevin Feige, you know, you talked about how there was that big event a couple of years back when Marvel announced their massive slate of films. I think they're going to do the same thing after Spider-Man Far From Home. I think they're going to have another event, and with much hoopla, they're going to announce what they plan to do with the Fox Marvel characters and what they plan to do for the next 3 or 4 years. And I'm sure Guardians is going to be at the forefront of that announcement. So, yeah, I think it's going to happen.
One of the things that I find interesting about Sean Gunn's comments is that it brings up a topic we've been talking about before. Who are they going to get to direct this thing? Because there's a director problem here. Because you've got Marvel directors like Scott Derrickson, like Taika Waititi, who have directly said, oh, no, that's James's thing, and we're not going to touch that. So it kind of raised, like, if hardcore on-board Marvel directors even saying, no, we're not, that's James's movie, we're not touching it. If even they're doing that, is Marvel going to have a hard time, we've talked about this, finding the director they want to get on board who's not going to be afraid? So hearing Sean's comments, it makes me wonder, and again, this is pure speculation on my part, pure speculation, but it makes me wonder if James Gunn isn't doing a little bit of repairing fences, building bridges or whatever, and telling Sean, hey, listen, dude, it's cool. James might be saying to Sean, hey, I'm still going to make a lot of money from Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It's my legacy. Go ahead, make it. And I wonder if those conversations are happening with his brother, who he's very close with. I start to wonder if these conversations might also be happening between James and Dave Bautista. Because remember, Dave Bautista has been at the forefront of the most critical voices of Disney over the way they handled the James Gunn situation.
Yeah.
Straight up daring Disney to fire him, begging Disney to fire him and let him out of his contract. I wonder if Sean is saying stuff like this now, and we haven't heard anything from Dave Bautista about this in a while. Maybe James has gotten in Dave Bautista's ear. Maybe James will talk to some directors and say, hey guys, listen, if you want to direct Guardians 3, I'm totally cool with it. Who knows? Maybe I'm just speculating way too much, but if the guy closest to James is coming out and say, hey, it's all cool, we're going to get this movie made, then maybe James is doing some of the stuff behind the scenes. Because you raise a great point. He is the writer of the script. He's going to be a producer of credit on this thing. Everybody knows, no matter who directs the third part, that Guardians of the Galaxy is James Gunn's. Everybody knows that. So I just can't help but wonder if maybe this is a sign that the waters are going to start to calm around this whole storm we've had.
Well, I think absolutely. I mean, do you think Marvel wanted James Gunn fired? You know, I mean, it's so interesting that James Gunn was fired for doing what James Gunn had. The guy worked for Troma. You know, and if you read his novel, The Toy Collector, or you know anything about his dark sense of humor, James Gunn he didn't do anything wrong. He made some really off-color remarks with very blackly sardonic humor. And I mean, it was ridiculous. I think it was a knee-jerk reaction from up on high. I bet Kevin Feige wasn't pleased about it at all, because James has probably proven to be one of the most delightful people in the world to work with, and certainly became, you know, what Jon Favreau was to the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. James Gunn sort of became to, you know, the middle or this part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, he had a hand in Infinity War. He had a hand in two movies, one of the two of the most successful movies other than their team up films. And it was a shame what happened to him. It should never have happened. Well, and it was a bad call.
I've been very critical of Alan Horn. I mean, look, Alan Horn's a genius. He's one of the best executives movie business has ever done, and he's made Disney a lot of money. But I've been very critical of Alan Horn and how he handled that. I think he had a very quick knee-jerk reaction. I think he acted ill-advised. I didn't think he took the time to consider what was happening, and then he painted himself and Disney into a corner. And he alienated his filmmakers. He alienated the Guardians of the Galaxy cast, who all came out publicly to say, we want James Gunn back. I mean, that's how bad. I was actually at the premiere last night, kind of looking over my shoulder to make sure Alan Horn didn't come up from behind me with a metal chair or something like that. But because I've been very critical of him, and I think he deserves it. But who knows? Maybe this is a sign that the waters are starting to calm. All right, guys, with all that down and out of the way, we're going to save a little bit of time now to take some of your live questions. A bunch of you guys have been sending in live questions, so let's jump over there and start getting to those right now. And the first one we're going to start off with comes from Daniel Biernacki, who writes, "Good morning, John, Ashley, and Robert." Well, Ashley's not here, but I'm sure she would be appreciative of that anyway. "My wife is currently binging Supernatural and wanted to ask if you had a favorite season or episode." I love them all. I think my favorite, I can't remember if it's season 4 or 5 or 6. It's one of those two. It's the one that culminates with Michael and Lucifer being locked in the cage, with Sammy being locked down there with them. And that, to me, might still be my favorite, although a number of seasons have come real close. And as far as a favorite episode, it's not indicative of the rest of the show, but the Scooby Natural episode gives me so much joy. So much joy. You got to check it out. So that's one that really stands out to me. And that's a recent one. So your wife's got a while before she gets to it, but I love this show. Anyway, Jay Bling writes, "It's both saddening and refreshing to read all the stories talking about how Luke Perry was a true gent." Yeah, Rob, you and I haven't had a chance to talk about this on the show per se, but you know, the passing of Luke Perry, I remember when I heard about the stroke, I thought, for whatever reason, I took it in a way that he was going to be okay. And I don't know why. Nobody said he was going to be okay. I just kind of assumed in my head he was going to be okay. Hearing that he passed away, so tragic. And like a lot of outpourings been coming out now of the people who knew him and worked with him. And it's a really sad thing, especially when he was just completely revitalizing his career with another hit show in Riverdale. They had just announced a 90210 reunion thing they were doing. Like, he was just, and for this to happen now, I mean, on the one hand, I'm super glad he got to experience the revitalization of his career again with Riverdale. But I mean, hearts and prayers out to everybody who knew him. But you've been reading some of this stuff, and your thoughts on the passing of Luke Perry.
Yeah, I mean, it's look, I can't tell you that it doesn't make you stop and really think about your own life. I mean, he was 52 years old. You know, he was such a staple of when I first moved to California because we watched 90210. You know, even though I was just out of college, I was still watching 90210. It was Dylan McKay was that your favorite character, the brooding outsider that everyone thinks is a dick, but he's really not. He's like the nicest guy on the show. And Luke Perry was a great. He just was a great star. I thought he was a really good actor. He also did, like I said yesterday, he did quirky things, like he would show up in The Fifth Element, you know, and I never met him, but I've only ever heard great things about him. And it's really sad. He had 2 kids. He had a fiance. You know, you just never know when the anvil is going to be dropped on you, and we're not all Wile E. Coyote, and we don't come back from that. And it's just sad that, you know, when I heard he had a stroke, maybe it was Saturday, that he was rushed to the hospital, I was like, gosh, I hope it's like a minor stroke. But to have, you know, it made me feel, I have to say it made me feel like I felt when even though it wasn't as personal, but like what happened to John Schnepp. You know, you're somebody, you're working with somebody, you're talking with somebody, and then literally days later they no longer exist. And it's a strange thing. It's great though to see such an outpouring of love and support and good cheer towards him and his career, and it's really nice to see that. And if you have to go this young, it's nice to know that you left behind a legacy that would not only make you and your family proud, but everybody, you touched everyone who knew you. So that's good. That's a good thing.
Unless we forget, there probably wouldn't have been a Buffy the Vampire Slayer had Luke Perry's name not got attached. Remember, that's one of the stories, that him getting attached to that and then being able to attach him to that is one of the things that got that film made, and that then turned into one of the most beloved cult hit genre TV shows of all time. And yeah, he had a definite impact. All right. Let's keep going here. The next one that comes to us from that was Jay Bling. Kyle Starr writes, will any other Avengers show up in Captain Marvel? Kyle, you've got to be high on something if you think I'm going to answer that question. So I cannot answer that question at all, Kyle. I understand the curiosity, but there's no way I can answer that. Willow Yang
would have
writes,
killed you if you did.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. And many people, I'm sure. I would have been the target of a lot of ire. Willow Yang writes, new Shazam trailer made me happy. Get him Batman. Well, I'm not sure about that, but I agree with you, Willow. The trailer, it makes you happy. I watch that trailer and it just makes me happy. You know, it just triggers the joy centers of your brain, and it's just like, damn, I want to sit down and watch this movie. Again, we talked about that seems to be a shift for Warner Brothers lately, and if it's a sign of things to come, I think it's good. Here's hoping the movie's half as good as it looks, but I think this movie's going to be great. Herc08 writes, been watching Lethal Weapon Season 3, and I'm loving Seann William Scott. Good comedic timing and action chops. Where has this guy been? Definitely an upgrade since American Pie. Yeah, Seann William Scott, it's an interesting thing, Robert, because Seann William Scott was a guy that for a period of time, particularly post American Pie stuff, it looked like he was going to be one of the next big things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it looked like he was a can't-miss prospect, to put in sports terms. And then they put him in that movie, I think it's called The Rundown, with The Rock. And then he did a couple of indie films, including, what was the hockey one he did? Was it not Enforcer, or was it called Enforcer?
The Goon?
The Goon, thank you. Which is something that they call enforcers in hockey. But he's done a lot of things like that, but then he just kind of quietly disappeared. And I always thought he was kind of fun and charming and had some good charisma on screen. Now, I've never watched the Lethal Weapon TV series, so I have no idea how he's doing on that. But for me, it's kind of nice to see him back. What are your thoughts on him?
I agree. He was also in Dude, Where's My Car, right?
Yes, of course he was. Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, he did have a career, and then like you said, he sort of like disappeared. But it's, I haven't seen the Lethal Weapon TV series either, but I've heard it's quite good. And everyone's saying that, after the departure of their star, their co-star, that when he came on, there was a lot of people going, wait, what? But apparently he's acquitted himself with aplomb. He's done very, very well. And our viewer, his sentiment is I think shared by many.
All right, let's move on to the next one here. And the next one comes to us from Murray Reich, who writes, John, if I gave you more money for Super Chats, would you change your Captain Marvel review rating? Well, Murray, you'd have to give me enough money that I could retire, because that would pretty much end me if I just started giving out reviews for that. So if you give me enough money that I can retire on, sure. I'll call it the worst movie or the best movie ever made if you give me enough money that I can just quit and retire right now and go and sit and play video games and watch Supernatural and, just hang out with my wife all day. That would absolutely do it. Ben Rayner writes, which crew do you like Paul Rudd with more, the MCU or Farrell's crew? Hey, look, I think Paul Rudd, who, by the way, has at some point created a blood pact with Lucifer himself. Because when you look at him in, what's that teenage movie that everybody loves? Oh, God, why am I forgetting the name of it? Donald Faison is in it. The girl who was Batgirl. Who's the girl who played Batgirl?
Yvonne Craig.
No. Played Batgirl in Batman and Robin.
Alicia Silverstone.
Yeah,
Clueless.
What was the Clueless? When you look at Paul Rudd in Clueless, and then you look at him today, you would think, oh, he shot this movie Clueless 5 years ago. No, he did that movie Clueless like 20. This dude has made a blood pact with Lucifer himself to just not age. It's crazy. I think Paul Rudd has fit in amazingly well with the MCU crew. Paul Rudd brings a dimension that just wasn't there before in the MCU. He's a totally different kind of character. And he brings a totally different kind of energy than anybody else in the MCU has. And Robert, I remember when they were talking about casting Ant-Man, it came down, I don't know if you remember this, but it came down to, they were saying, the reports were it came down to two guys, Paul Rudd and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And a lot of people thought, well, you got to go Joseph Gordon-Levitt, because I would say he's probably the better actor, but it depends on the tone you're going for, because if you're going to go for something comedic, Paul Rudd is probably your guy. And I think, again, the choice of him is just... So, as much as I love him in the MCU, though, him and the Will Ferrell crew, there was a reason why The Legend of Ron Burgundy is one of the greatest comedies of all time, or Anchorman is one of the greatest comedies of all time, whether it's 40-Year-Old Virgin, which is my number one all-time favorite comedy, or something. When he's rolling with that crew, with the Steve Carells and the Will Ferrells and that kind of stuff, that's when he's home. Like, he brings great stuff to the MCU, but when he's doing that comedy stuff with that crew, he's home. So I'm going to say, with his Will Ferrell, Steve Carell comedy crew, who do you prefer him with, Rob?
That's a really tough call, because I love Paul Rudd's comedies, whether it was Anchorman or, I really liked him in I Love You, Man,
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I love him as Ant-Man. I love him as Scott Lang, but I really like his comedic work. So if I had to choose either or, I might go with you on that, the Will Ferrell crew. I just want to point out that there are hot toys of both Paul Rudd and Joseph Gordon-Levitt from his character from The Dark Knight Rises. Just, in case you wanted to know.
But the question is, do you have them?
Of course.
Of course you do. Well, you got to show them off sometime. All right.
Well, the Joseph Gordon-Levitt's just in a cop outfit, but he comes with Commissioner Gordon, so that's cool.
Okay, that would be a cool one to see. All right, let's move on here. The next one up, it comes from Sam, who writes, "Hey, John, how is the CGI overall in Captain Marvel? A little hit and miss. A little hit and miss. Some of it is spectacular." Now, this again is coming, it just shows how spoiled we are with how great the CGI has been in movies lately. But by the top standards, a little hit and miss. Some of it looks spectacular. Some of it just looks awe-inspiring, jaw-droppingly good. But there are also moments, and it's just moments, but there are moments in this movie where it's like, well, that's animated. Like, you can just clearly tell that's animated, and it's there. Now, I found that those points did not pull me out of the movie, which is good, but yeah, you're not going to see Captain Marvel nominated for Best Visual Effects at the Academy Awards. Yeah, let's just put that. Some great stuff, yes, but it's a little bit hit and miss. Fortunately, none of it pulls you out, but yeah, there you go. Jordan Solis writes, "Thoughts on Nick Foles expected to sign with the Jaguars? Personally, I thought Nick Foles was a better fit than Carson Wentz for the Eagles." That was a no-win situation, though, Jordan, for the Eagles. You've got a potential league MVP in Carson Wentz, and you got a guy who's a Super Bowl MVP in Nick Foles. You can't keep them both. You can't afford that. Not because they both want to play. I think the Jaguars are a great fit for Nick Foles because while a lot of teams think they're just a good quarterback away from being a contender, that's not often the case, as the Minnesota Vikings just proved this year when they got Kirk Cousins. But the Jaguars are. The Jaguars are a team that, with a great quarterback, they're an elite team. I'm not saying they're a Super Bowl champion, but they're an elite team with a great quarterback. They're going to have a great season. So if that all gets done, it's a good fit for Foles because he'll be the clear number one guy there. He's got a great team around him, and they're going to benefit a lot from a good quarterback. Anyway, Seer Ivan Bennett writes, "My name is Seer Ivan, and I'm addicted to hot toys. I bought a mattress this weekend and justified it by saying that's only the price of 3 hot toy figures. It was then that I knew that I had a problem." Well,
or it's then that he knew he was awesome.
That's awesome. By the way, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Rob. I have, I'm not going to lie. I bought a new bed about a year ago. I spent about $2,000 on the mattress. And I'm a type of guy that you have to understand how cheap I am. I'm the guy who has always gone to IKEA to pick up my mattresses, you know, $200, $300. I've always been that. But my wife convinced me, she says, John, we're spending like 7 hours a day in the bed. You're spending 7 hours a day out of your 21-hour day or 24-hour day in that one spot. Good sleep is important, blah, blah. We're going to invest money in this. And it hurt me and it hurt me and hurt me. But I bought myself a good mattress and I have never regretted it.
Dude, that's
it
like
took away a vacation.
Hot toys though, bro. That's like 8 hot toys. What's up?
What am I doing? I could have all these hot toys, but I'm telling you, despite the fact that I had to maybe miss a vacation or whatever, I have never regretted it. So no problem, sir. Like, I mean, like seriously, Rob, I'm not going to doubt this at all. Do you sometimes look at the cost of something and figure it out in relation to how many hot toys? Because I've heard you do that. I've been with you when you said that. I've been there looking at some new fandangled $5,000 computer or $5,000 new camera, and you're like, okay, so that's about 9 hot toys. Like I've seen you do this.
Yes, I do that. You know, I had to pay a lawyer this weekend, and I thought to myself, how many hot toys is that exactly? or better yet, you pick a hot toy like the Hulk Buster. The re-release of the Hulk Buster is $1,100, and if you buy the accessory packet, that's another $250. So you know, life it all comes down. But you know what? To be honest, I think a mattress is important. Good sleep is important, and you know you can't take it with you. But I'm hoping to one day leave a hot toy collection that's the envy of whoever gets to take it. Either that or they'll just throw them away as what's with this garbage toy? What is this? What, plastic people? Who cares?
Well, Rob, you know, I told you this set here could always handle. I'm more than willing. I'm willing to bite the bullet and go buy a bunch of those glass display cases from IKEA and showcase your wonderful
display cases.
Yeah, and showcase your wonderful hot toys here. I'm just saying the offer is there. All right, let's move on here. Let's see. Curtis Lopez writes, this morning some Captain Marvel troll tried to look into my Facebook profile or try to lock a Facebook profile and use the fact that I earned a BA degree in film studies to insult me. You know what's funny? I do find it funny when stupid people try to use other people's education. And by the way, they're tremendously intelligent. Some of the smartest people in the world have never gone to college and stuff like that. That's not the be-all, end-all of anybody's intellectual prowess. But it does take a stupid person to try to point out somebody having an education as a bad thing. Like, that always gets me. Whenever you see somebody saying an education is a bad thing, like, you don't have to have an advanced education. No way do you have to. But whenever you see somebody trying to point out somebody having higher education as a negative thing, that to me is a good sign that you're looking at an idiot. That's just a good sign to me that you're looking at. Look, I don't have a master's degree or anything like that. You know, I studied some law, all that kind of stuff, whatever, but I don't have a master's degree. But there's no way I'll ever point to somebody having a master's degree or a doctorate or a bachelor's degree or whatever saying, oh, that's a negative thing. You should be like, that's the sign that you're truly talking to an idiot at that point. So I wouldn't worry about it, Curtis. All right. Murray Reich writes, classic YouTube comment of the day. You really are Disney's under thumb. I don't even know what under thumb is. You know what's funny? Here's the thing, Murray. If I came out, I mean, look, I just understand there are people with agendas out there. If I came out, like, let's say I came out of Captain Marvel last night and I did think it was on par with Winter Soldier. Let's say I thought it was on par with Civil War, and I just came out saying this is one of the best movies of the year. This is going to be one of the best movies of the year. Then inevitably, you know, what you would get is these morons who say, oh, you were paid by Disney to say that. Yeah, okay, so I guess Disney also paid everybody in the world who loves all these movies. Anyway. But I didn't think that about Captain Marvel. I thought it was a good movie. That is not a top tier MCU film. You know, it's not on that top shelf with the 5 or 6 best MCU films, but it's a good film, right? So then what do the morons say then? They say, oh, well, that's just saying you thought it sucked, and you're just afraid to say that it sucked. And it's like, you know what? Here's the thing, Murray. There are morons in this world, and there are complete idiots who they have an agenda, and they're going to try to shape the world around them to fit whatever their worldview is. And I have just learned to be annoyed by it, but not care. You know what? I'm going to continue doing my thing. I'm not going to let it affect because if I thought it was the best movie ever, I would have told you it was the best movie ever. If I thought it was terrible, I'd tell you it's terrible. If I think it's good, but not super great, I'm going to tell you it's good, but not super great. And quite frankly, this is where people don't understand. I don't give a fuck if you like my opinion or not. I really don't. I don't give a fuck if you like my opinion or not. The only thing I care about is that I give you my honest opinion. And if that means I need to make myself look unpopular by telling you my honest opinion about the original, I mean, Rob's not going to like this, but I'm giving you my honest opinion on what I really thought about the original Blade Runner. I know everybody thinks it's great. It's a classic. It's one of the most highly respected films of all time, and I don't like it. I can't say otherwise. I can't tell you to look cool like all the cool kids. I cannot tell you that I think it's great if I don't think it's great. And that means sometimes I got to make myself, and if you want to get into something like this, you cannot worry if other people like your opinion on something. All you have to worry about, and all you can worry about, is that you know you are saying what you actually think. And if that means loving something that a lot of people hate, so be it. If it means not liking something that other people love, so be it. I know a lot of people didn't like Justice League. I went to the theater and watched it like 7 times. I don't care if you like that or not. I'm just going to tell you I liked it, so I went to go watch it. And that's all you can do. That's really all you can do. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. And everybody else who wishes they were me can just continue complaining about it, I guess.
You know, if I could add something to that, all of the ire that you read on the internet, especially directed toward this movie, has really no bearing in the lives of the people that are displaying this ire. If they get off the computer and they walk out the front door of wherever it is that they live, the sun is shining, the wind is blowing, maybe it's snowing or whatever, it has no bearing on your life and how you feel about yourself. So the idea that you're bringing some kind of ire to the internet or to the world because of some ridiculous notion that this movie or Brie Larson's commentary has any bearing on your life at all is strange to me. I mean, why not go and enjoy films and enjoy them for what they are? You know, they're the culmination of thousands of people's work and effort to try and create something that will entertain people for a couple hours. And why get so angry about them? I mean, I marvel that any film even exists. See what I did there?
That was very well played. Very well played. Look, it's funny too, because I had this conversation with somebody last night, and they said, I'll address the general themes, but say, John, there are a number of people out there who, like, as soon as you say an opinion about something, they're out there making videos. Like, there's a number of these places that'll make videos about what you say. Why don't you ever respond to them? And I say, well, honestly, the reason I don't respond is because I'm clearly important enough to them.
Right.
I'm clearly important enough to them that they need to talk about me. But they are clearly not important enough for me to talk about them. And that's just it. I mean, I don't think I'm all that important, but there are bodies out there who seem to think I am so important that, and I didn't know I had such a lofty status, but that I'm so important they need to talk about me. But I'm sorry, they're simply not important enough for me to talk about them.
Well, what's strange about that is people out there on the internet that want to disparage you. There's people out there disparaging me. Rather than, it's easier to do that than actually have to take a risk and create something of your own, or put an opinion out of your own and own it. And I've always said, work begets work. John, you're out here putting yourself out every day to people, as I've been doing. And it's if people want to make fun of us, that's fine. But that's if they're going to make fun of us, they're taking away only from themselves. I'd rather hear what their point of view is rather than them mock mine. I know what my point of view is. What's theirs?
Yeah. Well, anyway, so again, not getting into anybody specific. I never talk about anybody specific on here, and I never need to. But it is one of the funny things that you get every day. Like when you do this job the way I have, and I have been here doing this for since not full time, but I've been doing this since 2003. And you see everything come and go, and you realize, whatever, whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to keep doing what I do and loving what I do. All right. Let's move on to the next thing here. And the next thing here comes to us from Tacky75, who writes, saw Green Book, okay movie, definitely inferior to Roma and Black Klansman, and one of the weakest Oscar winners in my book. And that's the beautiful thing, Taki, about these movies, is that it's all subjective. You had a certain experience with the movie, and that's great, and your opinion is no more and no less valid than mine. I feel differently. I thought Green Book was a vastly superior movie to Roma. And I did think Black Klansman was better than Green Book. Like, Black Klansman was my number one pick. Out of all the films that were nominated for the Academy Award, Black Klansman was my number one pick out of the ones nominated, but my number two pick to win out of the films that were nominated was Green Book. And I think it is an extremely strong movie. I think it's a wonderful movie. Not one of the greatest movies of all time, like I was kind of hoping it would be after I saw the trailer. I was hoping this would be like on Godfather level, you know? And it's not that, but I think it's a very strong, there's some people out there saying, oh, this is like the worst winner since Crash. It's like, okay, if you feel that way, that's fine. I got no beef with you, but I feel very differently. I think this is a terrific movie, even if it's not the number one that I would have given the award to. Nicholas Glenn writes, who did it better in your opinion? DC with Wonder Woman or Marvel with Captain Marvel? Reviews have not been great for Captain Marvel from the looks of it. Actually, the reviews have been quite good. The last I checked, now listen, I expect the RT rating to be around 82 to 86 or something like that. It's still holding at 89% right now, so it might go 90, might go 86, whatever. I personally, and you guys know, I like Patty Jenkins' movie very much. I would put Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman on par with each other, to be honest with you. I didn't think Wonder Woman was one of the great comic book movies of all time, but what Patty Jenkins did, she did some great things there. And I think they did some great things in Captain Marvel, although not one of the top tier MCU films. So I would personally put Captain Marvel probably on par with Wonder Woman. That's how I would compare them at any rate. Let's see. I don't get enough hate clicks. Just sends in a super chat. I like that name. I don't get enough hate clicks. I like that. Nicholas Glenn writes, do you have to see Captain Marvel to see Infinity War? It makes sense. Well, I haven't seen Infinity War. Oh, sorry. I think you probably meant Endgame. Do you have to see Captain Marvel to see Endgame is probably what you meant to say. I haven't seen Endgame, so I can't answer that question. I simply don't know. I think, like a lot of things in the MCU, if you see Captain Marvel, it will give you a deeper layer of appreciation for what's to come in Endgame. But, like, I know people who have seen their first Marvel film they ever watched was Infinity War, and they were able to completely follow what was going on, and they completely loved it. I'm sure they missed some of the nuances because they didn't see the other films, but they were able to watch it okay. I never got the feeling that you have to see Captain Marvel in order to see Endgame. But again, I haven't seen Endgame, so I can't really answer that for sure. Gabriel Reed writes, where are we at here? Gabriel Reed writes, I get that she's powerful, but one of my main worries for Endgame is that I don't want Captain Marvel to stop Thanos herself. It must take all the Avengers, including Captain Marvel, to take him down. Well, Gabriel, here's the thing. You're making the assumption that the big end fight is against Thanos. Like, you're making a huge assumption here that ultimately it's got to take everybody fighting Thanos again. Only this time, Thanos without a fully operational Infinity Gauntlet, because as the Russo brothers told us in the director's commentary of Infinity War, the Infinity Gauntlet has been permanently damaged. So I don't know what that means specifically and what the repercussions of that are. But they say the gauntlet is now permanently damaged. So there's a lot of assumptions that go in there. Look, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if Captain Marvel can come in and single-handedly take out Thanos. I don't know if Captain Marvel becomes the piece of the puzzle that puts the Avengers over top. Like, all the Avengers fighting Thanos, real close. Now you add one more piece, like a Captain Marvel, that puts the Avengers versus Thanos over the top. Or whether Captain Marvel can do it all by herself, or it needs just Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, and Captain America and Thor fighting together, and that's enough to do. I don't know what it is. Clearly, Captain Marvel is going to be a piece to that puzzle. How big of a piece, we don't know. And what the puzzle even looks like you're assuming the puzzle comes out looking like everybody's got to fight Thanos again. We don't even know that that's the case. So, Rob, how would you address that? Like, how do you see that working out? And do you even still think, I know you got some doubts that Thanos is even the big bad guy in this one.
I do. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've always said Infinity War did not end on a cliffhanger. You know, it was a distinct ending. We lost, Thanos won, end of story. Now, that doesn't mean another story can't begin where they're able to change that outcome. But this idea that I think just going back and fighting Thanos or gathering the Infinity Stones in the past or whatever, and I think something more interesting is actually going to happen. And I think that Captain Marvel is not, they know this. The filmmakers are very savvy. They know that it's the core characters that we care about, that we've come to love over the last 10 years. And they're not going to take away that from us. They're going to give us, they know what they're doing. And I think, you know, adding Captain Marvel to the mix is only going to make things even that much more interesting. But I don't think anyone's going to just stand back and be like, Captain Marvel can handle it. Let's go have some more shawarma. You know, it's not going to be like that. It's just not.
All right, let's move on here. Kara Black writes, John, you need to see Ronda Rousey's villainous and vicious heel turn that happened at the end of Raw last night. I didn't even hear about that, but I'm not surprised. They've been trying to put Ronda Rousey over as a face, and that hasn't worked. Ronda Rousey, by the way, she's a great in-ring performer. Like, I watched a couple of her matches because, you know, Kaori and Ann will watch them sometimes. And, like, she can actually get in the ring and perform real well. But she has no mic skills, so she hasn't gotten over as a face. So I'm not surprised that they turned her heel. But I'll have to watch it. I'll have to see that. Zach Bartran writes, I noticed in the Shazam bit release, the first trailer, the bus had a SEPTA logo on it, which is the main transportation here in Philly. Then in Meet Shazam, it was blurred out, and now it's gone entirely. I had never noticed that, Zach. That's really interesting. By the way, I don't even know. Do we know where the story Shazam is supposed to be taking place, Robert?
No, and I was going to say it probably doesn't take place in Philly. That's why they erased those things. Either that or they didn't get... Whenever you show logos and things in movies, you have to pay for those or get those cleared. Like, you can't just point a camera down, say, Hollywood Boulevard. Half the buildings on Hollywood Boulevard are copywritten, believe it or not. The Griffith Park Observatory is copywritten. If you want to show the Griffith Park Observatory in your movie, you have to go make a deal to do it. You have to pay for that privilege. And that could be what happened with what's going on in Philly, or they just didn't have permission, or they didn't want it to be recognizably seen as being in Philly and call it something else. Like, this is Fawcett City. Well, no, you're in Philly, dude. Oh, well, let's make sure we don't let people know that.
Right. But good observation, Zach. I never even noticed that when I was seeing that. All right. Wesley Cunningham writes, I can see the vid titles now. Captain Marvel fails to make 1 billion. Brie Larson's agenda defeated, blah, 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 etc. I'm just prepping my eyes to roll now. Hey, look, I've been calling it from day one for months. I've been saying this for the longest time. Because the situations of Captain Marvel are identical to that of Ant-Man and Doctor Strange, brand new characters not introduced in previous films before their first solo movies, I am fully expecting Captain Marvel to come in at their box office numbers, which is $600 to $700 million. That's where Doctor Strange ended up. That's where Ant-Man ended up. And that's where I think Captain Marvel will end up. Now, there are several people who do think it's going to go much higher than that and maybe join the $1 billion club. But there has hardly any original first introduction superhero movies that have joined the $1 billion club. I'm sure one or two have, but if there are one or two, it's incredibly minimal. Aquaman. Now, you might want to say, he was introduced in Justice League.
You're right.
Black Panther, but he was introduced in Civil War. So It's rare. It's really, really rare. Like, I'm going to be stunned. I've always said I'd be stunned if it hits $1 billion, and I don't think it will. I think it'll be 600 to 700 million, maybe 8 as a far stretching imaginative number, maybe 800 million. But yeah, but I mean, it's possible. Look, I didn't think Venom would hit 800 million. It did. I didn't think Aquaman would hit 800 million, and it crossed $1 billion. So we'll have to wait and see. But Rob, you're still thinking it has a chance for that 1 billion number.
I'm telling you, I think the female crowd is going to put this movie right over the top.
All right. Okay, let's move on here. Next up, Sam Fisher writes, I watched Stardust and I loved it. Favorite character was Shakespeare. My favorite line was, Captain, we always knew you were a whoopsie. What I really loved is that Neil Gaiman wrote the book. Favorite fantasy author of all time. You know, this is a follow-up to a question that came up the other day on the show, Rob. Somebody was asking me, hey, if you had one movie that you knew not a lot of people have seen that you really recommend they see, you know, that takes out a lot of the big movies because a lot of people have seen a lot of the big movies. What I always go back to is Stardust with Charlie Cox, Claire Danes, Henry Cavill, Robert De Niro, Michelle Pfeiffer, on and on and on. It's a tremendous cast. It's what I call the new Princess Bride. I love this movie. And Robert De Niro is wonderful. So you've seen it.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm a huge Neil Gaiman fan. My favorite comic book series of all time is The Sandman. I love his books. I can't wait for the Good Omens TV series. That's obviously from the novel that he and Terry Pratchett co-wrote. I love his work. I can't talk. Coraline was his. Great stuff.
Yeah, and I love that movie, man. Just keep spreading the gospel of Stardust, man. I love that movie. All right, Murray Reich writes, Saints fans dressed up as refs at a Mardi Gras parade and blindfold on their eyes. Stay classy, New Orleans. It's on Instagram NFL memes page. Okay, I gotta see that because look, I was cheering for the Patriots in the whole playoff push, and I gotta tell you, I was also cheering for the LA Rams because I'm living in LA and all that kind of stuff. But I'm a big Drew Brees fan, so I love both those teams that were playing in that game. But the New Orleans Saints got screwed. I mean, it is one of the most infamous. This will go down as one of the most infamous, obvious blown calls. And look, a lot of blown calls don't directly change the game. That was a call that completely determined and changed the outcome of the game. And the New Orleans Saints 100% got completely screw jobbed. Like it was the Montreal screw job times 10. And I felt horrible for the Saints fans. Just horrible. Again, I live in LA. And even I was like, they got screwed. They got so screwed. But I gotta look up those memes, Murray. I gotta see those. All right. Gabriel Reed writes, Game of Thrones trailer just dropped. This might be one of the best experiences in television history. The final battle they're setting up looks intense.
Heck yeah.
Oh, Rob, we've been talking about it. I mean, like, you've let it linger in you for about an hour now. You still excited about this trailer?
Dude, I'm so excited. I mean, I can't tell you how excited I am. And you know, I own all 7 seasons of Game of Thrones on Blu-ray. Would that surprise you?
Really? Does it come with all the special features and stuff? They just come with extra special features that
yes,
they didn't
it
put on
does.
TV?
Yes, it does.
That's intriguing. So I'm not surprised at all, but I actually think that sounds pretty cool. Okay. Let's see here. Henry K. writes, Mr. Campea, do you think Captain Marvel will suffer the same fate as Solo, a Star Wars movie? Nah, because Solo was a movie that I said from the beginning when they announced it, they never should have made. Nobody was asking for a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford. I said it from the beginning, and I maintain that whole theory. Now, I like the movie. It's a good movie. What Ron Howard did to come in there and salvage that film is impressive, to say the least. But no, Captain Marvel's not in the same boat. Captain Marvel is going to be profitable. Captain Marvel's going to make money. The only question at this point is, how much money is it going to make? Is it going to make a bit of money at $450 million? Is it going to be nicely profitable at $500 million? Is it going to be a hit at $600 to $700 million? Or will it be a mega hit at $900 to $1 billion? That's the only question at this point. Like, Captain Marvel's not going to make, isn't going to make $350 million worldwide. It's just not. It's just not. They're already saying they're anticipating a $95 million opening in China alone. And if my prediction of 90 million in North America, that means in opening weekend, just between two countries, now granted they're the two biggest markets, that'll be $180 to $200 million just in the opening weekend from just two countries. So it's going to make money. The only question is, how much money is it going to make? Rob,
right.
I know you think that $4 billion is a possibility. What do you think or said $4 billion. Obviously, you've already said that you think $1 billion is a possibility for Captain Marvel. What do you think is the floor, though? Like, we know what the ceiling is. What do you think is the floor for a movie like Captain Marvel? What do you think is that you can foresee would be the least amount of money this movie makes?
600.
Really? You think that's the minimum?
Yeah, I think that's the minimum this movie's going to make worldwide. Because I'll tell you, reading, I think a lot of people, the two reviews that I think everybody should read is read The Hollywood Reporter and read Variety. Read those two reviews of Captain Marvel, because one is very pro and the other is very con. And I think that the thing about Captain Marvel... But be careful,
because the Variety one apparently gives out a lot... I've been reading that people are saying that the Variety one puts out a lot of spoilers.
Oh, well then, yeah, I can't...
Be careful about that.
I was reading mostly for what... I think the thing that people are about this movie that is going to connect with, especially the female audience, is how the story of Carol Danvers looking for herself, looking for her own identity and who she really is in the world. I think that's going to resonate with a lot of the female audience, which has yet to... Wonder Woman kind of had the same thing. Wonder Woman had to go out into man's world and find out what was up. And I think it brought in, the reason Wonder Woman exceeded expectations was because you have an underserved audience with this genre, which are women. Now, I know that there's a lot of female comic book fans and all that, but those aren't the people I'm talking about. They know they have those fans. But I'm like, my mom wants to go see Captain Marvel, and it's the people, it's the non-geek crowd. It's the mothers and daughters that don't normally head out to a theater, that have probably no interest in Infinity War, but they want to see, you've got a 6-year-old girl who saw a Captain Marvel commercial. Her mom's taking her, and probably you're going to take a few friends with them too. And I really think that this movie is going to have a huge, huge replayability amongst the female audience. That we as geeks, as fanboys and fangirls, we aren't necessarily always aware that audience is out there primed to see this film. And I think they are. And I think it's going to provide a groundswell of support.
Okay. I'm a little bit different than you. I don't think 600's the floor. I think 475 is the floor. I think it could come out as low as 475 at the minimum, maximum about 700 million. So you're from 600 to $1 billion. I'm from 475 to about 700 million. So let's see where it all ends up. All right. Next one. Wesley Cunningham writes, one of two, feel like the Oscar rules thing shouldn't be a huge deal to Netflix. A very limited theatrical run. Then after a two month wait, putting it to streaming. He then follows up down at the bottom there. Say a month or two before Oscars to capitalize on buzz. Seems reasonable. By the way, don't feel like I put in chats enough, but have a great day. Oh, Wesley, you put plenty of chats. There's no obligation here to put in chats. Well, that's kind of goes back to what Robert and I were saying the other day. Look, this Oscar thing can be solved very easily. Very easily. There's a very easy solution to all this. Netflix, just put out your movie theatrically and then wait a couple of months like all the other studios need to do, and then everybody's happy. The problem here, and I love Netflix, the problem is Netflix wants everything done their way. Like, we want to be Oscar eligible and all that kind of stuff, but we don't want to have to do what everybody else does. We don't want to compromise in the least. This thing is solved. There's two easy outs here that solves this problem completely. Number one, Netflix goes, you know what? There is an awards celebration for content made for the television screen. It's called the Emmys. We'll just go and get honored at the Emmys. Okay, you don't want to do that? You want to go to the Oscars? Okay. Then here's easy fix number two. Just go, okay, the movies that we think are Oscar contenders, we're going to give a theatrical release, and then we'll do what every other studio has to do and wait a couple of months before putting in our streaming service. By the way, Robert, as you have pointed out in the past, that's exactly what Amazon does. Amazon has original movies. They put it out in the theaters, then they wait a few months, and then they put it on their streaming service. There's an easy thing here. So I don't want to hear from Netflix playing the, oh, we're the victim, oh, poor us. I don't want to hear that. You have a simple solution that you're totally in control of. Just do it. Well, no, we don't want to do it. We want everything done our way. Well, then we have a problem. But, I mean, do you see is there a third easy out for this, Rob? Or
no, I mean, I think you can't, everyone wants to have their cake and eat it too. Like you just said, it's a simple solution. Amazon Studios puts out their movies in theaters, and they're treating, I mean, the funny thing about what I think Netflix is doing, that I love Netflix too, but I don't like to see the theatrical experience denigrated. I still love the movies. The movies are essentially my church. I feel they're a holy place. When you go into, like when I go into the Cinerama Dome to watch Captain Marvel, I'm going to hear a sermon from the Mount. You know, and I'm going in there with the flock of the faithful, and I like to feel that excitement and like to sit down. And when the lights come, I mean, you know, as a middle-aged dude, when the lights come down in a cinema, I still feel the same buzz I felt when I was 5 years old, and I don't want that to go away. You know, you hear that crunch of popcorn and people sucking up their sodas, and then they get quiet when the lights come down, and people sort of take a breath in anticipation of what's going to unfurl on the screen in front of them or above them or wherever you're sitting. I don't want that to go away. And I think that Netflix shouldn't either.
All right, let's go on here. Next one comes to us from Murray Reich, who writes, Space Jam 2 spoiler. There is no rematch with the Monsters because the Toon Squad misses the playoffs. Hashtag LeBron. Well, I mean, hey, look, thing is, the LA Lakers were like 9 games over 500, something they have not done in like 5 years, when LeBron was healthy, and then he got injured, and then the LA Lakers tanked, and they just haven't been the same. He missed, I can't remember, 17, 18, 19 games, and they just tanked when LeBron was injured, and now it looks like they're not even going to make the playoffs at this point. They'll still finish much higher than when they didn't have LeBron last year, but yeah, the West is tough, man, and that's a terrible team. Other than LeBron James, that LA Laker team is a terrible team. It's not like the Golden State Warriors, who have like 3 future Hall of Famers, 6 different All-Stars, and all that kind of stuff. This is a horrible, horrible team. And you can't just add the best player in the world and expect to have great success. Anyway, moving on here. Just have time for a couple more questions here, guys. Roman Bryant writes, I have a big love for 30s and 40s monsters movies. I remember geeking out in the Universal Monster Cafe. What's the Universal Monster Cafe? Do you know what he's talking about there, Rob?
It sounds like an old AOL chat group. I mean, I used to go, there was an old AOL groups, like there was one called the Hollywood Cafe that people would go into starting at like 10 o'clock at night, would stay there all night long. And people like Chris McQuarrie were in there, and a lot of famous people that are working in Hollywood would be in there, and nobody knew who they really were. You know, people, unless you went by your real name, but the people who knew, and you just go in there and talk shit about Hollywood for all night long. So it sounds like it was called the Hollywood Cafe. The Monster Cafe might have been a similar thing. I don't know.
That would be interesting. All right. Jake Therian writes, hope to see you at CinemaCon. Let's hope their Wi-Fi is better than San Diego Comic-Con's. The Wi-Fi at CinemaCon, for those of you who know, CinemaCon is the big annual event put on for film exhibitors. That's all the movie theaters. And all the studios go and present all their upcoming movie packages and all that kind of stuff. It's the best. It's better than, for movies, it's better than Comic-Con. It is the best event of the year, in my opinion. Yeah. And it's wonderful. You can't buy tickets. I mean, you can buy tickets to go to it, but I believe it's like $1,400 to buy a ticket to go to one of them. But at any rate, it's at the beginning of April. I think we're going. I'm still not 100% sure, but I think we're going. We did get press credentials, so we have been invited to go. I still don't know 100% sure that we can get a way to go, but I do find the Wi-Fi there is always good. Not like Comic-Con, man. The Wi-Fi there's always terrible.
I want to give a shout out to Jake, because last night on my own chat, he came in and threw me some very generous super chats, and all he was talking about is how much he wants to meet us and hang out. So thank you, Jake.
Who knows what happens when we're in Vegas. Let's see. Dim Sum writes, I feel like Captain Marvel would be more like Age of Ultron or Thor 2. Very top-heavy, but not offensive. A good time for hardcore fans, I guess. Well, no, it's not like those. I think the general movie-going audience is going to get a kick out of this movie. It's just not Civil War. It's not Infinity War that people are going to walk out with their eyes glazed over. It's like, oh my God, what an experience. Like, there were even average movie-going audiences are just like, this is like a transformative experience. No, Captain Marvel is a good, entertaining, solid film that I think the average film goer is actually going to enjoy quite a bit. I think it's more of us hardcore fans that are going to be a little bit more critical of it, like I am. I'm a little bit more critical of it. Again, I still like it. I think it's quite good. I put it on the level of Doctor Strange and an Ant-Man, but it's just not on that upper tier level of some of the MCU films that we've come to expect. And so that's my feeling on that. Ben Rayner writes, holy shit, that new Game of Thrones trailer. Holy shit, I can't wait. Yep, again, man, it's all about that money shot. It's all about that money shot. That money shot is something pretty damn special, and it kind of tells you everything you need to know about it. Those dragons look pretty damn badass, I gotta say. So that's what everybody's excited about, and you're right. It's going to be insane, man. All right, Hands of Stone. Just a couple more here. Hands of Stone writes, saw Eddie Vedder on YouTube doing a great cover version of Maybe It's Time from A Star Is Born. Now I need the Campea version. Which one's that? Maybe it's time to let the old things die, or old ways die. Well, I got my guitar over here. Maybe I'll pick it up and figure out how to play it. Dim Sum writes, is there an oh shit moment in Captain Marvel? Yes. Yes. There are actually a couple. And that's why I said in my review, if you saw my review, I said, hey, it's a solid film, not the upper echelon, but there are some great moments. There are some moments in this film that are very crowd-pleasing. At least I think they are. Okay.
Flurkin.
I'm not saying anything. Patrick Conway. Don't forget, guys, Robert has not seen this film. Patrick Conway writes, pity Lion King isn't coming in June around Father's Day. I think it would be a great movie for fathers to take their kids on Father's Day. Well, yeah, but let's be honest, Patrick. Fathers are going to take their kids. I don't have kids, but if I did, I'd be taking them to see Lion King no matter what day you dropped it on. I mean, and I think Disney knows that. So I don't think that's a big deal. I really don't. I don't think that's going to be that big of a deal. I don't think it would have made that big of an impact. I think anybody who would have taken their kids out to see the movie on Father's Day, they would have done the same thing. And there are other movies you can take your kids to see on Father's Day as well. So I don't think it's that big of a missed opportunity per se. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here. Listen, guys, don't forget, first of all, make sure you take a second, click subscribe, become a subscriber to this YouTube channel, keep up to date on everything we've got going on here. I also want to make sure I mentioned that, again, the way to submit new topics and questions for the John Campea Show is by going to the new website, www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. That's where you submit your questions, everything. But we also put up all the content that we have going on here. I also, guys, keep a blog, and I do blog posts on that page as well. So that'll keep you up to date on some behind the scenes stuff that's going on there too. I want to thank, of course, the very Game of Thrones drunk right now, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my own YouTube page, The Burnett Work, or at my website, theburnettwork.net. A lot of fun stuff on the website.
And of course, guys, you guys can just also follow me on social media on Instagram, simply at John Campea. That'll do it for us for now, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow. And until then, bye-bye.